and I need my notes as well. All right. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to State of the Nexus, episode 6. My name is James Kaelaris Carroll, and alongside me, once again, we have our usual hosts and our special guest in Fan. So we're going to go down the line, we're going to do our little intros, tell everybody who we are. We're going to go from Dread to Bakery, and then to our special guest, of course. So take it away, boys.
I'm Dreadnought. I am a caster, ex-shot caller, support player and captain of Tempo Storm, and I talk about a lot about the game. That's about it.
Sweet.
I'm Bakery. I'm the support and team captain for Team Dignitas. We're playing in the Heroes Global Summer Championship at DreamHack Summer fairly soon, so we're preparing for that.
And Fan?
Hey guys, what's up? I'm Fan. I currently play for Team Naventic. Currently play Flex for Team Naventic, and used to play for Cloud9 last year, won Dorm and BlizzCon last year, and won Regionals this year, DreamHack. What's up, guys?
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Basically, one of the most winningest players in Heroes of the Storm. That was perfect English, of course. So it's very nice to have you here, man. We're going to start things off by just kind of asking you a few questions directly, actually. This week, it's a little bit light on topics in terms of Heroes of the Storm. We don't really have too many patch notes to talk about. We have an upcoming tournament to talk about, of course, as well. But we're going to start with asking Fan a few questions. So I actually just wanted to ask a very, very general question to start off, which is kind of what got you into Heroes of the Storm initially? Did you transition from another game? Can you give us a bit of a story on your background as such?
Yeah, so I pretty much, before Heroes of the Storm, I played like StarCraft 2. I was like Grandmaster in the first 2 expansions, and I also played Dota like semi-competitively for like 7 years before that. Basically what happened was just, I was coming off a period where like, I was playing Dota competitively, and so were a lot of my friends, and I decided to kind of choose college over like pursuing full-time Dota.
Mm-hmm.
And then all my friends chose to like pursue full-time Dota, and they're all like international winners now, so like big mistake there, but whatever. And then I was kind of on a period of break where I chose college. I wasn't playing that much Dota, and a bunch of my friends wanted to try the new game Heroes of the Storm that just came out. So I tried with them as soon as we got like the beta, and at first it was just for fun, and then we all found out that we were pretty good at it. I used to play with like Kawaii Rice, Miwa, like Ursadon, some of these names you guys probably still know.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just all went into the competitive scene, tried competing. We played a tournament, did pretty well against like the super old Cloud9 Vortex with like Bobby Hankill and like iDream and Marjar, and we were like, hey, we could probably compete pretty well. So we've been competing or trying to compete ever since, or I have at least.
I didn't actually realize that you came from a Dota background, and even some of your friends are now international winners. Which ones are those?
I mean, I used to play with like all the old school players like Fear, Demon, Aoi, a bunch of the old school NA players.
Oh wow, didn't even realize. That's pretty awesome. What made you stick specifically with Heroes of the Storm? Like, what really draws you to Heroes of the Storm? Obviously, you said like you were pretty good at it, and that's kind of what initially brought you in as an attraction. What's kept you going, aside from winning, which is actually probably quite a big draw?
I mean, to me, it's just like Heroes of the Storm is, I don't know, it's just really like, it's pretty fun for me, honestly. Like I enjoy the game a lot. I can just play the game and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I like playing the game. It's fun for me. Like you can compete in tournaments, which I also love doing. So it's there's no downsides for me.
All right. Do Dread or Bakery have any questions from any of those answers, or you guys okay?
Not off the top of my head, at least. Although it's kind of unfair because I've known Fan for a long time, I guess, and played against him and stuff. So like, all this isn't new information at all. So.
Yeah, fair play. Fair play. So I want to kind of go to the most recent tournament then, which was Austin. Obviously, you guys have just come off the win there. I say just; it's been a little while now. But Obviously, you came off that win. What was the thoughts after coming off of that win? Obviously, you defeated Cloud9 in the final. It was quite a close series, admittedly. But how did you guys feel, especially yourself?
We definitely felt like extremely good about that series. Obviously, we got the first seed for Sweden, which takes a lot of pressure off the entire team. And yeah, we felt really, really amazing. We have beaten Cloud9 before in like tournament setting at Heroes Rising, but in the most recent tournaments, they've been getting the edge over us. Last regionals, they won over us with 3-1, and I personally think we threw it crazy, but it's always like nerve-wracking because we might throw again at this event or something like that. So I'm just really, really glad we managed to pull out the win. And yeah, I personally think whenever we match against Cloud9, it's like 60-40. But if anyone tilts or anything, then the odds become vastly different. So I'm glad that everyone kept their cool and we managed to pull through.
That's good. That's good. There is always this kind of, I guess maybe it's a fallacy, maybe it's not, that people draw from in terms of you were on Cloud9 for a long time. Has the kind of experience with Cloud9 and then going up against them, in terms of I know that team so I can counter them better, is that kind of not a thing anymore with you having been gone for a while, or does that still kind of exist?
I think it's much less of a thing than it was at Heroes Rising. Like back at Heroes Rising, I like literally could tell every single pick order for Cloud9, like exactly what every single player was going to play and where they were going to pick it. So that helped us a lot back there. And I mean, I think I think that doesn't really happen as much because it's been so long, but to a lesser degree, I think some members of C9 at least still play some very similar things to what they did back then. So it still helps a bit, but not too much anymore.
Okay, fair play. And my last question kind of on that subject is actually something that a lot of people have asked and been curious about, and likewise I'm curious too, as well as maybe Bakery or whoever. I don't care about these guys, whatever. But the question is when you left Cloud9, a lot of people, or you mentioned, or Cloud9 mentioned, that there were disagreements in terms of your play style towards the game, things like that. Could you it's been a while now, could you potentially go into some of those reasons as to why you made the transition from Cloud9 to Bob Ross?
Yeah, so basically we had different ideas about how to play the game, and it showed in like a lot of different areas. For example, we kind of like I had different thoughts about how to draft than the rest of C9, so there was some differences in the way that we wanted to draft. I also had differences in like how to play the game, like in terms of like kind of shot calling and what to do on the map. So we had differences in opinion there as well, and even down to like kind of like the heroes who played what, we had differences of opinions there as well. So there was just we had a lot of like differences in opinions, especially towards the end, and that was kind of like the main factor.
Okay.
And I mean, personally, I think there was also like one player on the team who kind of did some like a little bit of some shady stuff towards me, and I won't go into any detail towards that, but there was also some of that going on. So I don't know. Basically, the combination of those two things made me like, well, we basically both decided that it would be best if we split ways.
Fair play. Fair play. Dread, Bakery, do you guys have any questions in particular towards Fan and things?
Did you feel like you knew that situation was like inevitable, I guess, and happen over some time? Because like for those who haven't seen like Cloud9 when you were on them outside of the tournament setting, like obviously when you're playing, everybody sees you all sitting there. But outside of that, it was very much like a 4-1 split, and it was very apparent. It never seemed like when you guys were together that you didn't get along, but it also was like just who you went to go hang out with. Like for instance, it was always a 4-1 split, and so with that, I feel like you had to have some kind of foresight into it, I guess. I feel like, did you feel like it was inevitable, I guess?
I didn't really think it was inevitable at all. I think that's kind of like a misconception that pretty much everyone had. And basically, I think everyone had that misconception because at BlizzCon, I didn't hang out with the rest of my team very much, but pretty much at like every other tournament, I hang out around, them just as much as anyone else did. It was only at BlizzCon, but I think BlizzCon was the only tournament that people really noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just because my girlfriend was at BlizzCon and I was spending a lot of time with her. So that's why I wasn't hanging out with them. But yeah, other than that, like I would say I hung out with the rest of C9 as much as anyone on the team did for the other tournaments. And I mean, as far as results, we were actually doing very, very well. So I definitely didn't see it coming in terms of results, at least. So yeah.
Bakery, any thoughts? Any questions?
So upon like leaving C9, after you both decided it'd be best for you to leave, did you have anything lined up? Like, did you already think like, joining Bob Ross would be where you go, or?
I mean, as soon as kind of like the decision was out, at least to like the other teams, I got a lot of different offers. So I definitely could have chosen where I went. And at the time, I think Bob Ross was just showing that they were by far the like kind of next consistent team in North America. I think they were like just winning North America when C9 was out. So yeah.
Fair play. Are you alright there, Dread? You okay?
Yes.
Good.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I wanted to ask as well, like, obviously you've actually come off the back of a lot of wins throughout your Heroes career so far, probably more accomplished, as I say, than almost anybody else in the scene. What's been the most memorable win to you? What's been the most rewarding to you throughout that time, and why, really?
I mean, I think the most rewarding win for me that I remember was probably the same as like what everyone else remembers. Probably like game 2 against TNL at BlizzCon when we ran like Abathur Murky and beat them. Just because like it was BlizzCon, and obviously that's been like the biggest tournament that like at least I've played in to date. I guess in like Korea Worlds is the same thing, but BlizzCon was like way more hype because we actually won it. So I remember that game was very, very exciting to me. And just because, like, I mean, no offense, Fakery, but like I thought back then that TNL was on like a much, higher level than Dig. So it just felt like they were like the final boss kind of. And that was like the second game where we actually took them out. So it was like, it was pretty intense. Everyone thought the Koreans were like super, super good from scrims. And it just felt really good taking them out.
That's a great point, actually. I completely forgot that you guys played in the BlizzCon finals. That's brilliant. I'm so happy that we have this reunion now.
That we did.
Yeah. I'm really trying to formulate questions about that in my mind now, but I'm having a hard time because I would love to ask more about that. Because obviously Bakery's perspective on the finals might be a little bit different from fans' perspective.
It was called Banterial. And Europe has only one strategy. That was what it was.
I remember we went to like Denny's the night before, and I was literally like, "Look, just ban Tyrael. Like they can't. Look, we just ban Tyrael. It'll be fine. Like we can take them on with anything else. Like, yeah, that was the strat.
Was it that simple, Bakery?
It was like ban Tyrael, and then if they let us, ban Monk second, because Bakery's really good at that too. That was the strat. Like
that was the
our
dream.
3-night game plan.
I'm afraid I can't really disagree. The Dignitas team at the time of the finals was a pretty bad way. There was... Okay, I won't go into too much detail, but basically the team was completely gone. We had to roster change after that tournament. Even if we'd have won that tournament, we had to roster change. It was way too far gone. So honestly, I really don't disagree with the assessment that TNL was much harder to beat.
Fair play. All right. Well, unless you guys have any other questions, we can actually move on in terms of sections. Dread, Bakery, any other thoughts? No?
Not really.
You're right.
Nope.
Out of curiosity, I guess I'll keep going. Like, when did the kind of disagreements over in Cloud9 arise? When did they first kind of rear up, or like, was it before or after when BlizzCon? I can't remember.
I don't know exactly when, but at least I found out that there was like some disagreements around. I would say in between winning regionals last year and BlizzCon, so sometime in that time period.
Okay.
So before BlizzCon, yeah, but after qualifying for it.
Well, it seems like in the end you've made a good move. Now you're just going to probably potentially win everything, unless we see Cloud9 do very well with Mr. Caterpillar.
Yeah, I'm sure Cloud9 will do well. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, anyone. Like, I love Cloud9 a lot. Like, all the players on it, they're still very good friends of mine, and I think they're all very strong players still.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. All right, well, we can move on to our next section, which is going to be about the NA regional that is coming up, and that is going to be in Burbank, California, with 8 teams participating, and it's the exact same 8 teams as Austin?
Yes, every team is the exact same. Minor roster swaps, but every team is the same.
And
that's actually crazy.
Yeah, so it's well, some consistency in the American scene at the moment, and to be fair, it looks as if they are at the best level that they have been so far, across the board at least. That is how it seems. So let's take a look at the groups to start things off. We have Group A, which is going to be Team Naventic, Panda Global, Astral Authority, and Tempo Storm. And then we have Group B, which is Brainpower, which is XCOG, Gale Force Esports, Team Name Change, and Cloud9. I guess we'll look at Group A first to kind of get things going. Already, when I look at Group A, I think both groups are pretty, I would say, stacked, because it's kind of like how the NA region is now. But what are your guys' thoughts already on Group A here with Naventic, Panda Global, Astral Authority, and Tempo Storm? Because Astral Authority, in my opinion, Austin especially, were kind of impressive, and it's kind of up in the air as to who will come out in second, unless Tempo Storm has kind of like not fixed some of the issues that they had at Austin. What do you guys think?
I think Tempo Storm will get bodied, to be honest.
I think Tempo is looking terrible in the qualifiers. I mean... So obviously, for everyone that doesn't know, they had some pretty big swapping going on. I believe Zizix moved to Warrior. Airho took a break from competitive, so they brought in Tomster, I believe.
Brought in Tiger JK. Tomster was playing for them last time.
Right, okay. But yeah, there's a lot of swapping. The roles are swapped, the players are swapped, and it doesn't appear to be working out too well, to be honest.
So it's going to be a down and dirty tournament for them, you think? Dread?
Yeah, it's going to hurt across the board, I think, for Tempo. Astral's a team who I view them. This is a really old reference, I guess, but like the very early forms of like cognitive is kind of how I view Astral Authority now. They're a team who it seems like if you get them out of their comfort zone at all, they seem to kind of crumble a little bit. But whenever you let them get back into it, they can take a game off of, it feels like almost anybody if they get it in a perfect situation. But as long as you play around it, you feel like there's no way that they'll pull an upset. And I think all the better teams at the tournament will be able to deal with them. Overall, I don't know. I feel like Group A is very convincingly Naventic.
Yeah, I mean,
and then the only other team it would be Panda or Astral, probably Panda, but I don't know. That is a little bit closer.
Going into this group, Fan, obviously you actually playing in this group. What are your anticipations for the group? Obviously, with you guys being the clear favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everyone else. Like Tempo is just, they've done a lot of like role swapping and bringing in new players. Like support switching to tank and shot caller is, I think, a pretty big swap. And then also Goku and Tomster keep switching between who's melee and who's ranged, so that keeps happening like every 2 weeks, so that's kind of weird as well. And as far as the entire group goes, I would say that we would come out first, and then I'd give Panda like a 2-1 over Astral Authority to come out second, but I think Astral could come out second if like what Dredd says comes true and like they get exactly what they want. But yeah, I would say Panda second, Astral third, Tempo probably fourth.
Okay. And actually, just as a side note, going into this group as well, considering that you guys have already won a regional and already qualified for DreamHack Summer, how do you guys approach this tournament? Because obviously, I guess you don't want to show too much. Like, what's the kind of measurements there?
Yeah, we're just gonna try and pretty much play solid and not show too many secret strats or anything. So, I mean, there's a lot of pressure off our shoulders, which I personally think is very nice. because I mean I don't think we'll be pressured at all this tournament, so there's probably less chance of tilting and stuff like that, which is personally I think pretty good for our team. And um, yeah, I mean I don't want to like get too overconfident or anything, because like watching last regionals, like for Dig, they like smashed through it without losing a single game, I think, and then they ended 6-6 or something like that, like, or they didn't make it out of the group stage. So
Yeah, Bakery.
yeah, I didn't even think that was like possible. So I'm like kind of scared that happens to us as well. I think everyone on the team is like that can happen, and then now we're all scared that that can happen, and like we don't want to get too overconfident.
Wow. So Bakery has basically broken part confidence because of Dignitas's performance.
It's all part of the long con mind games.
Right.
But, like, we knew this would make Niantic scared, and it's gonna crumble at Worlds. Trust me.
Yeah. This is what I said to you in the previous show. I was like, oh yeah, so as much as you were like, yeah, it's team roster swaps or whatever, you're just like luring people into a false sense of security, just dropping the tournament. But now you've evolved that. You're now trying to tilt Niantic. I like it. This is good. This is good. All right, well, we can move on to Group B and have a little bit of a look at see what's going on here. We have Brainpower, Gale Force Esports, Team Name Change, and Cloud9. Now, obviously, like something coming out of this is Caterpillar moving on to Cloud9, and Brainpower being previous ex-Cog, picking up somebody else who's on Brainpower now. Stray?
Stray?
Yeah, Stray.
Stray.
Yeah.
So how do you guys think this group's going to go, firstly? And then also, what do you think about Cloud9's current roster swap? And do you think that that's going to spur them on a little bit more? Dread, start with you.
What section do we want to start with first? Because there's a lot to talk about, I think, here.
All right, let's start with group predictions, and then we can move on to the Cloud9 thing later on.
Predictions, I'll go with... I'll go Gale Force Esports Cloud9.
As in Gale
in that
Force
order?
first? Or...
Yeah. No, I'll go Cloud9 first, Gale Force second.
Okay. Any thoughts why? Like
Yeah, so I think Cloud9 will keep doing Cloud9 things, which means being better at LAN than most of the teams. And obviously, they're still really great. They're a great group of players. It's just you can tell something is off when it comes to communication, synergy, everything of the like. So I think they'll just proceed to keep doing what they're good at and be able to pull through Caterpillar. Hopefully, the unified voice is something that will either really pay off for them or it will be the exact opposite, but we'll see. And then also, I just think Gale Force, as long as they do not make poor decision making, I feel like they're a team that's slowly been like rising over time. I view them as like Mind Sanity in NA. This is like not the spike I think that we saw from Mind Sanity recently. I feel like, but we're in those middle stages where I do believe they'll slowly be getting better and better results.
Okay, Bakery, thoughts on Group B?
I think honestly, this is actually one of the most interesting groups for me as a viewer that we ever had in here. It's like there's a lot of good storylines. So we've got the like complete underdog who everyone's going to underrate. Of course, team name change. We've got that team that was thought to be the best, and then it just all kind of went wrong, and then they had a roster change. So no one knows what's going to happen to Cloud9. We've got the next best. Oh, wait, hang on. I don't know how to describe this. It's like Brainpower have been hyped for so long. Like ever since I started following NA, people are like, guys, this roster, they are the next big thing. They're going to be the best in just like a month. Like just give it some time. And that's been like for the past 8 months. So I mean, they're still on that train, I guess. So that's really exciting. And then Gale Force, like Dredd was saying, is obviously the My Insanity like team. So as a viewer, I think this is actually a really interesting group. My predictions are Cloud9 and Brainpower in that order.
No Gale Force. Okay. And obviously, with you saying that Tempo Storm had that fall off. Wait, no, we're not even on Tempo Storm. Cloud9's here. Never mind. I was gonna fire shots at Dread, but it doesn't matter. We'll move on. What are your thoughts on Group B?
Yeah, I pretty much think that. Like, I think if any team here outside of us have a shot of beating Cloud9, it would be Gale Force. They've already done it like twice online, so like I don't know, a lot of people know them as like the C9 Slayers, at least online in qualifiers. They've taken them out in both qualifiers for DreamHack Austin and Burbank. So Gale Force, I think, definitely has a really good shot at taking down Cloud9 if they don't choke. But I still can't like go with them on over Cloud9 in a prediction. I would say Cloud9 goes first in that group, and Gale Force probably second, with Brainpower third if I had to do like just top down predictions. But I think, yeah, this group I think is really interesting. I think this group, like any team could switch places. Like I could see team name change placing a lot better than fourth, obviously. And you know, Brainpower could go second as well. I think it just depends a lot. In terms of the like C9 thing, it's interesting. I think on last town hall they said that Cattle, you know, he's not the primary shot caller for them. He's joining them, but they're still sticking with the kind of communal shot calling method. So that's interesting to me because then it just depends on whether Caterpillar is, you know, kind of like mechanically a better player than Arthalon, and I think they're very similar. They're both very good players. And the shot calling aspect's not going to change that much. I do think that Caterpillar will talk like probably more than Arthalon does, just based on the fact that he was a shot caller, and Arthalon I think was a fairly quiet person. So maybe that'll help them a bit. But other than that, yeah, I would still go with C9 first, GFE second. But anything could happen in that group, I think. Any team could switch one place up or down, I think.
Okay. So, Dread, you said that you wanted to kind of talk a little bit more on this subject. Is it in the vein of like Cloud9 and their switches, or did you already kind of elaborate what you wanted?
Yeah, it's actually, now that Fan brought that up, when I heard about the roster swap, dropping Arth for whoever's going to be picked up, when they decided to go with Cattle, the first thing that went in my head was they want Cattle because they want a shot caller. Shot calling, without a doubt, is Cloud9's biggest struggle for a long period of time. They always win the early game, but they always lose the late game because nobody's on the same page. Fan, I don't know 100%, but from playing you guys and everything else, you were, in my opinion, one of the more vocal players on the team at the time. When it got to the later half, it felt like you were kind of dictating where everything went. So I felt like when they dropped you, I was like, so they're going to have even less of a voice, and they've done worse since then. So then when they pick up Cattle, I view it as like, it has to be because they realize they need that singular voice somewhere in their team. And like it's no singular shot caller ignores four other people, right? Like that community thing always exists. It just goes, when everything comes down, do we do this or do we do this? That one guy is the voice. It's not 3-2 split. It's just, that's what happens. And I felt like that was going to be their thought process. So if they're not adjusting that with picking up Cattle, I'm surprised to say the least, if that wasn't their goal with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say at least when I was playing on Cloud9, like at least in my opinion, I wasn't like, you know, the total like dictator shot caller kind of deal or anything like close to that. It was definitely more communal, at least towards the end. But I always felt like I was one of the most vocal players on the team, at least, especially when the team was losing. Like when the team is winning, everyone's talking and stuff goes great. But when the team is losing, I find that everyone stops talking, and a lot of the time I was the one talking in those situations just to kind of like keep it going. So yeah, I mean, that was one of my first concerns when they said they were going to pick up Arthalon, because I heard he was a pretty quiet guy. So I felt like that was just, you know, doubling up on one of the weaknesses that the team had.
I agree.
It's funny because whenever I like listen to shows or listen to people's opinions about like other MOBAs and other team-based games, it seems like shot calling doesn't come up anywhere near as much as it does in Heroes of the Storm. I guess because it is just so heavily focused on that team-based mentality. I mean, of course, other team games are, but you can have that moment where, you know, somebody solo shines a little bit more than Heroes of the Storm. Fan, on Naventic, how is it all fully handled? I think, I believe Zuna is your full shot caller, but is that the overriding thing on everything, or is there more to it than that?
Yeah, Zuna's the like main shot caller for strategy, but like Zuna's not like a, I don't know, it's hard to explain. He's not like a super loud, like, you know, like the dictator type shot caller. He kind of just shot calls overall strategy, and everyone else, you know, obviously talks a lot, and we kind of just make his overall strategy work the best we can, but we still all kind of like make our own decisions. And At least in tournaments, like I know that I always talk like a lot more in tournaments, and so do quite a few other Naventic members. Like we get way more hyped in tournaments, and yeah, we like talk a lot more as well. But that's kind of how it works. Like Zuna makes the overall macro shot calls, and we try our best to make it work, and everyone talks a lot to achieve that goal.
Okay. Are there, like, in terms of finals and moving on forwards in this NA regional, is there anything that people are foreseeing other than an Naventic Cloud9 finals? Do we think that a team like Gale Force could upset and maybe go on to the finals and kind of cause some disruption here? What are we thinking?
All right. Here's my conspiracy theory. I've been putting this together since they made the bracket. All right.
No.
All right. So Gale Force does the Gale Force Cloud9 slaying machine in the groups, putting Cloud9 into second. Naventic top decks and wrecks their group. They go into the semis. Cloud9 is now facing Naventic, gets beat, now is thrown out. Max tilt, they get to the best of three, doesn't matter because the whole team's upside down. That is the only way. That is the only way Cloud9 doesn't make it.
But then, so you're saying Cloud9 gets knocked out in the thingies, and then that means that they would have to play a tiebreaker to try and move on to summer.
But they're so demoralized. They're so demoralized by Gale Force and then Naventic that they're like, oh man, the whole tournament plays out. Bam, they have to take out whoever gets second place behind Naventic. And then guess what? They're just like, they can't handle it, dude. That's the only way they don't make it. I don't know if that's more of a compliment to Cloud9 that I think that's the only way they don't make it to Sweden, or if that's like a burn in the fact that I think that somehow that could happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the only way they don't make it to Sweden as well. But I mean, at least for last time when we played, we were like always, both of the teams were like super stressed out because like there was only one darn ticket to Sweden and there was two of us. So like everyone was playing high pressure. Like this time it was like, you know, we're playing with no pressure. So if we meet C9, like at least for me personally, like I'm going to go in with everything I have. So like, you know, no punches drawn and no pressure. So, you know, I think that helps us at least a little bit.
Do you think that kind of helps you out a lot in that situation? Like, without the pressure, do you think that you would have a more comfortable time against Cloud9? Or do you think that the pressure adds something to the severity of the situation and you play better? What do you think?
Personally, I think I play pretty well under pressure, but I think Naventic as a team overall, we would probably do well or better without pressure. And just in my personal opinion, yeah.
Fair play.
I agree.
Bakery, thoughts? I just kind of threw that out there.
I'd really like to see a team that isn't C9 go, just because it's exciting.
Okay.
But I mean, not only do I personally really want to see Cloud9 there, because they're actually, I'd say, probably my favorite team to hang out with.
Because of Korea when you both lost, yeah.
Yeah. The fifth, sixth place corridor.
Yeah.
It was a fun memory.
Go on.
No, but yeah, I also don't see them not making it. I guess if they get cheesed in Group B, like how likely, Fan and Dread, do you think it is that they will tilt? If they do end up getting cheesed and they play against Naventic in semis and lose, how likely is it that they go on tilt? Like hard tilt.
So it's one of those things where I don't totally know, right? Like I haven't gotten to see them in scrims or anything, so I that's the only way I could determine. Because how I view it is like they got a new player, right? So you have that weird like honeymoon area where things are going to be very polar. They're either going to be always just awesome, shit's going to always be good, or it's going to be really awkward really quickly. And so I view it as like when the tilt kicks in, it's either going to be like they're still in the honeymoon phase, nothing is going to like affect their mentality, or it'll be the exact opposite. It will literally just be like, boop, and then the whole cookie just falls down, like just crumbles.
Like a house of cards.
Yes, and that's how I feel. I feel like it's going to be one of those two polar things. Like I'm going to guess it'll be the positive one just because until other teams show that they can step up at lane, I just refuse to believe otherwise, like that Cloud9 won't. But it could go the opposite direction. It could.
Fan, speaking of tilt, this might be giving away trade secrets, I'm not sure. But is there anything that, or like instances where Naventic has just been like, nope, we can't beat that team, or like, nope, there's no way we're going to be able to kind of come out the victor there?
Yeah. Like when we played MVP Black in Korea, like
Yes.
I was playing Jaina and like I like max range blizzarded their immortal or some shit, like the very tip edge circle, and they like none of them were any closer than that to me. So like a max range blizzard cast away, and my team was all like right next to me, and like I max cast the blizzard onto the edge of their immortal to get some damage on it, and then just like instantly 4 people appear on top of me. It was like Tyrael, like Greymane, like crazy. Just 4 people appear right on top of me, even though I'm like in the middle of my team, like a screen away, and I try to run away, and like they kill me, and they all get out, and I don't know. It was just insane. At that point, we're just like, yeah, they're just too good for us right now. Like it's not with our current iteration at Worlds, we couldn't beat them there.
Does everyone here have experience against MVP Black, other than me, of course?
Yeah.
Okay.
I played them at MSI and PAX Prime in the grand finals. They did not have their exact roster they have now. I believe there was one who was changed.
Yeah, Lockdown for Rich is the
yes,
change.
yeah, Lockdown and Rich.
Yeah. So is it really that daunting? Go on, Bakery.
I've never played them in a tournament, but I did scrim pretty extensively against MVP Black before so. I think like we kept losing, but we remained hopeful. We were just like, we're just playing badly, like we can still do this. And then we finally got a game where everything went right. Like we finally played properly. We did the objectives. We snowballed super hard. And then there's just a team fight where we get 5-man sundered and 2 of us die instantly.
Oh my god.
And we're like, I'm done. So yeah, they definitely it definitely feels different to play against them.
Yeah.
Yeah, more so than any other team.
Yeah, it feels weird.
That happened to us against E-Star in scrims too. Like our very first scrim against E-Star, we took down like their first keep in 6 minutes, and then we got like another keep in 10. So they were 2 keeps down 10 minutes into the game on like Dragonshire. And the game went to like 20 minutes. Like we just could not close it out on them. They were so good. And then late game, they were like getting the advantage on late game rotations. And eventually they just got one better team fight. And it was like, dude, we got to keep in 6 minutes on these guys. How the hell did we not win? It was insane.
Do you think it's also to do with the infrastructure as to why they are better? Is that something that is a massive factor in comparison to EU and NA? Do you feel it? Like, is that something that you feel?
Maybe for MVP Black, I'm not so sure about E-Star. I don't know. I feel like we would have a much better chance this Worlds at least. I just I don't know. We weren't in the best mental state last Worlds, so I think that had a big factor in our poor performance.
Okay. What did I want to talk about? And actually, I wanted to talk about the DreamHack Summer briefly. Obviously, like we know a lot of the teams that are already going in. We have some of the same teams from Southeast Asia going already.
So Cloud9, Eventic.
God damn it! All right. So obviously, like MVP Black's going to be there as well. E-Star's going to be there. EDG is not going to be there because
X Team,
boys.
Oh yeah, that's a big surprise for me.
X-Team
When I was in China,
killed them.
X Team did not seem like a number 2 seed in China, so that's kind of crazy.
They still don't. Like I watched.
They were bad. They were bad. You can be honest. You can be honest.
Like I watched every single game at least once. A lot of games, because thanks to our analysts, we have all of the draft sheets, we have all of the builds, we have stats from the games, and VOD links. So these VODs, like we watched a ton. Like we watched them as a team, we watched them individually, and we saw every game, like pretty much live. I think there were a few games that we had to watch on VOD, but we watched every game live, and then we analyzed them. And X Team just did not seem impressive, like stay up at all. Like
they so they took out EDG. If you watch the games against EDG, they're a level behind in every single game. And then EDG pulls the full TNL effect when they're against MVP Black, where you're like, you're not a terrible team, but you just have no idea what to do in this situation. Just like they like all that logic, they're like, pew, just goes out the window. Like screw everything. Like if you watch the last set between them, like they contested a boss on Sky Temple on bottom when a game-winning Shrine's on top. Like literally just game-losing decisions that are like that makes no sense. they do the exact same thing. EDG does the exact same thing in the X team. It felt like level down the whole time. X team comes out, or they're behind the whole time, or whatever, and then they just throw everything out the window, lose the late game, go behind. Who else do they take out? OMG. OMG honestly didn't have the most impressive road. Like they only took out essentially Zero Panda, and then they lost to MVP, and they moved on later. So like they took out OMG. It was 3-1. I'm not sold on it being the second seed and it being. I'm not saying that they're bad. That is not what I'm trying to say. But for the Chinese region, I don't think it's accurate representation of their strength.
So you think it's kind of like the similar thing to TNL being victorious over MVP Black for the last BlizzCon?
Yes.
That kind of thing. Fan, you said that, it's a little while ago, of course, when you were in China and you played them. Did you scrim against them? Did you play them? Like, how were they then?
We played against pretty much all the teams there, and I mean the only teams that could really beat us, in our opinion, back then was E-Star. Well, we obviously had different opinions, but like in my opinion, at least, the only teams that could beat us back then was like E-Star, Zero Gaming, and I think that's it. I personally thought that if we ever matched up against the number 2 team, what was the other team that went to Worlds last time?
For what region? For China?
China.
YL? You have YL and then Braveheart.
For Korea.
You had EDG and E-Star.
Oh, EDG. Yeah, okay. So I personally thought that EDG could not beat us. I didn't think they were that great of a team. They improved a lot, though. Like, going into Korea, they shocked everyone. So I thought E-Star and Zero Gaming were, like, the 2 best teams in China, so... And every other team I thought were very comfortably below them. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought X Team was around the same level as, like, YL, like, at BlizzCon, so...
Do you think going into summer... Sorry, go on. Were you making a point?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's, in my opinion, quite a bit lower than, EDG at Korea, even.
Okay.
Or, obviously, E-Star.
Do you think anybody going into Worlds is going to stand a chance against MVP Black? Do you think E-Star's going to try and show up against them? Does anyone have any thoughts on this? Who is going to try and topple MVP Black in their current dominant form?
Actually, yes. I think E-Star will win.
Oh, you did say this, didn't you? Why?
Because, like, E-Star's major weakness, every time they lose to MVP, is because Zhao cannot play melee assassins.
Was he even there last time, by the way?
He wasn't in Korea. That was the big thing in Korea. I think they would have been the finalist team, but they weren't because Zhao wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, Zhao cannot play melee assassins. Like, his tank play, like, if you look at his Tyrael play, if you look at his noob play, like, this guy is one of the best players in the world. You watch him play through, he has, like, 2 deaths in lane phase in most of that final series. Like, it was a disaster. Like, the meta going into Worlds in Sweden, I think, is going to be weighted towards double tank. Like, I think having that melee assassin, having that Thor is still going to be viable, but I think double tank is going to be the staple. And that makes E-Star a lot stronger. If you saw how close that series was with MVP Black, the Gold League, like, grand finals, it was a 4-2. Like, I honestly think if Zhao doesn't get to play Thor in that series, then they have a good shot at winning it.
Is that something that you feel as well, Fan? Do you think that the meta is going to be that way, like double tank going into Worlds, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think double tank is going to have like a much higher priority than it ever like has in the recent past, at least. So there's definitely a much higher chance we see double tank going into Worlds. But I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say Xiao can't play melee. Like, I think he can play Illidan just fine. It's just Thrall is in my opinion, Thrall is one of the hardest melee assassins to play optimally. Like, it's just something about it just very, very hard to play him optimally. You have to know a lot of different things about your healing and your damage and like your range, your threat range, exactly where they are. Like, so Thrall's just a very, very hard hero in my opinion. Probably the hardest melee assassin. And yeah, I mean, if you're playing against MVP Black, and I assume they can make you look pretty stupid on it if you don't have full mastery over it. So, but I agree, his Thrall was not impressive at all in that series. But I think he can play melee assassins, and I think E-Star, like, at Worlds, if there's any time they can take them down, like Worlds would be it. Like that's where they're gonna be trying all out, trying to win. And like I believe in my homies, like E-Star. I believe in them. My heart says E-Star. Like my brain doesn't, but I don't care about my brain. E-Star's gonna win.
Wow, so that's 2 for E-Star. Dread, you gonna jump on the E-Star bandwagon?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I'm not gonna jump on the bandwagon.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna jump on the MVP one either. I have no idea, honestly. And the only reason why is MVP's drafting has been more, how do I say this? More predictable now, I feel, than ever. They seem to have stopped creating like what made them so good with some of their unique like perspectives. They seem stalled out for now. And if that meta shift is drastic enough and they struggle with it, it could be enough to pull them away from the strength that they are now. At the same time, they're still an insanely powerful team. So I'm going to say I have no idea. All I'm going to say is that if I go to Worlds and have to watch teams not understand how MVP's drafting for the third time in a row that they go to a major, I'm just going to be so angry because they are very much showing absurdly heavy patterns for over a year now, and nobody seems to adjust.
Okay. What?
I just want to contest that point, actually. You said, like, they're not showing this innovation. Like MVP have never been good at adapting to a meta or creating a meta, in my opinion. Like, I think even if you look way back to the, like, BlizzCon qualification Super League,
Yeah.
they ended up playing this weird thing where they ran Butcher, like, every single game. Like that was their take on the meta. There was, like, 3 weeks, there was a huge patch, and they didn't get a scrim TNL. And their take on the meta was that it was this weird Butcher all-in thing, and TNL came up with a very normal meta, like the meta that we used moving forward from that tournament. So I don't think MVP have ever been good about adapting or creating a meta. I think they just take the meta and perfect it.
That might be true. I do think that they have certain points of innovation, though, that is truly theirs. That is pretty impressive. So, I guess I agree with your statement. I just don't want people to take away from the fact that they think anytime a patch hits, that suddenly MVP Black's the worst team in the world, because they do very much think on their own and are very bright on their view on the game.
Yeah, and mechanically, they're actually fantastic. Like,
yes,
it's very difficult to actually even penetrate that kind of thing. I'm very, very excited for summer. I must admit, to see once again how all the regions clash, especially considering, like how long the event could be as well. Something that's interesting going forwards as well is how does everyone think My Insanity is going to do? I actually think they won't do too badly this summer. I think they've been meshing quite well together, and I've even kind of jumped in on some of the scrims as well. Does anybody have any thoughts on how My Insanity might do?
Are they going to pick Lunara?
I'm not sure on that one.
Shigeni, I don't know. I want them to do well, but I'm going to give them that mid-tier area. If I was to put their place, it would be anywhere from like 6th to 4th.
Mm-hmm. We're in the same boat here? What do you think, guys? Baker, you're from my region. Like...
It's hard. It's honestly hard. But so, I'm honestly not expecting too much from X Team. I think X Team are going to sit in the 8th to 6th area. I think E-Star are kind of assuring for the final as our MVP Black.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to put any other team at a top 2, considering that they need to be more convincing than E-Star or MVP, which is incredibly hard. So kind of everyone's just going to end up in this 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th area, I think. Because obviously no one's going to think, well, C9 is just going to flop, like they did in these qualifiers. Like, Dignitas is going to flop like they did in Tours. Like, nobody's going to think this about their own team, and none of their fans are either.
Right.
So I think, honestly, when you're placing these teams, it's just like, I think everyone can make semis.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's kind of really hard.
So what you're saying is, like, there's way more room and variance going into this Worlds compared to last one, because last one we saw both China and Korea getting all top 4, and everyone else was eliminated before that. But this one, do we think that that's not going to be the case with X Team and then potentially a second Korean team coming in?
I think the best team from NA and EU, be that Dignitas slash MYI or Naventic slash C9, will be able to beat TNL. That's what I think. I also think that X Team is not going to have a good performance. Okay. So I think there's a possibility of 2, and I think at least 1 Western team will make semis.
Okay.
Yeah, I pretty much have the same concept as Bakery. I think I agree that X Team I do not think will perform up to EDG's expectations at all. I did not think it was possible for EDG to perform as well as they did in Korea, given what I thought about them in China. So that was mind blowing. But other than that, it's just even then, by the way, I think C9 should have beat them. So I don't think they were all I don't think they became gods or anything. They just played really well, but they were still beatable. But yeah, I think X Team is not going to have even nearly that kind of performance. Don't think they're going to perform well at Worlds. I would rather have X Team in my group than MYI personally. And I think that, like Bakery said, I think any of the NARE teams can beat TNL. I don't think it'll be greater than 50% necessarily, but I do think that they can do it. And yeah, I mean, at least personally for me, it was when I lost last Worlds, to Dignitas, so it could have been to anyone, didn't really matter. I was so devastated, and I was just crushed. On the bus ride home, I just could not stop tears from coming out of my eyes for 10 minutes straight. And it's just I swore I would be back and stronger than ever. So I'm gonna try my best to make sure that we do well this time. So yeah.
Sweet. I was curious actually as to how America views My Insanity as a whole. Do you consider them a dangerous foe? I mean, something that they pulled out at the last regionals was Lunar a lot, and that's actually something that I would say NA mostly kind of innovated on quite a while ago with that Nature's Calling, etc. stuff. So how do you guys view My Insanity specifically?
I think Lunar is still going to be a staple of My Insanity.
Right.
I don't think they'll change, and I think either we're going to see that it was actually broken this whole time, which I think is definitely a possibility,
or they get
or
bodied.
I think we're going to see that there's very clear counters to it.
Thoughts, Americans?
I think it'll be make or break, and I'm about 80% break, 20% holy shit, they were onto something nobody else was.
Okay. Fan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think in the Lunar, it's just, I don't think it's going to be game breaking in a good way. Maybe in a bad way it'll be game breaking, but yeah, I think it's just kind of there, kind of like a Vala or something like that. So I think it's just their go-to secondary range carry that they're very comfortable with, and it does enough in their comps. But yeah, I don't know. EU comps are weird. I don't really agree with a lot of them. So yeah, I don't know. I personally think for MYI though, I think Darkmok is a very good playmaker for them. I've been watching him for quite a while, even since Korea. He's been performing very consistently on melee assassins, in my opinion. So yeah, I think they'll do pretty well.
What are the glaring
just
things?
In general, everyone on that team is very consistent now, I think. So yeah.
What are the glaring things that you disagree with in European drafts? Anything specifically you can pull out?
It was just so weird. Okay, so there was a bunch of murky on shrines, which could have been good in my opinion. I was oh, that's actually pretty smart. And then they go March of the Murlocs and just use it in the worst cases ever. And I'm that's not smart.
I love you so much. We needed North American guests so much earlier.
Okay, well at least for Dig, I could kind of see it. There was 1 or 2 fights where I was that could maybe work, but it just didn't. But someone else picked it, and I was just these are just the worst marches I've ever seen. You might as well not have it all. And then there was other games where people would pick their only condition to kill someone would be Stitch's hook into Tassadar Force Wall. And I'm just
yeah.
You can literally be the best team in the world. If your only kill condition is Stitch's hook into Tassadar Force Wall, why? You're just gonna lose this game. I already know you're gonna lose from the start. You can't win that game just off drafts. So it's very confusing. I don't know.
Bakery counters.
I was super confused by the Stitches picks myself. Like, where they ended up in a scenario where they had like a kill comp and they had like the follow up, and then instead of like an ETC or Mjordan, they just locked the Stitches, and like it becomes the most awkward team fight you've ever seen. And like, so I can agree on that one. I think the March of the Murlocs point is like. The thing about Marks of the Murlocs and Signs is basically you get to 20 skulls, you're even. You cast Marks of the Murlocs, you secure the Sign 100%. It's literally just free. So that was the theory behind it. The issue is, in the game that we played it, is we were never even on the Sign. Like, we fell behind fairly early, and we never really got the XP advantage. So every Sign we came to, it was kind of like 30-10 or 20-0. So that was the issue with the Murky pick.
I think also, even on the desk, we kind of agreed with that in tour, especially. Like, the Stitches was disgusting for the most part for a lot of that tournament. And actually didn't have, like, one of the lowest win percentages, Dred,
Yes.
if we recall.
Yes. It was like a 30-something% win rate with like one of the higher involvement rates in the entire tournament. It was just mind-blowing.
People just kept going. People just kept picking it.
No, it just didn't stop. And it was just like, we're going to do it some more. And I'm like, holy cow. And then the one game that Stitches was picked where they at least had like a Murden stun follow-up, I was like, I don't like it, but at least somebody can help the Stitches like confirm a kill. Thank you. It took so long to make that happen. It just, everything about those drafts, I just didn't understand.
Yeah, I think it happened with Chen too, to a lesser degree though, because I think Chen has his places. Was like sometimes your only kill condition becomes like barrel into something stupid, and I don't know. This is the same thing. You're like relying on a 60+ second cooldown just for a single kill, and it's like a really unreliable, shitty way of doing it. I don't understand. I don't know.
All right. Well, do Dread or Bakery, you have any other questions regarding the NA regional or summer coming up, or are you guys good?
I don't think so. No, I don't have any questions, actually.
Baker Boy?
Nope, I have nothing.
All right, well, thank you very much, my lovely, lovely co-hosts. I really appreciate all that. We can move on to community questions then, to take a look at what people have been asking. So we have quite a few. I'm going to start with a hard-hitting one from Imsin. How does the future of this game really look to a pro player? Does it seem like there is more hope for more significant growth in the future, or is that pretty much it? And that's quite, that's quite hard hitting. So I guess I'll go to Fan first, and then I'll see for his perspective on that.
I mean, as far as the future of this game, I think at least in the near future, I think there's definitely room for like pro players. Like Blizzard's putting in a lot of money into the game, obviously. Like just this year alone, they far exceeded my expectations in terms of money, and I'm sure a lot of other pros' expectations as well. Considering what it was last year, it basically quadrupled, I think, or tripled at least, because there's 3 instead of 1 World Championship, and I don't know. I mean, as far as the game goes, Twitch viewership has always been really low, which is a little weird. But I do think that there's a lot of people playing it, and especially like going over to like China, and to a lesser degree Korea. Like when I was in China for a month, like I spammed Tier League like crazy. I think I played like 150 games or something, and it was, in my opinion, like what Blizzard says is true. The player base for the game, I think, is quite big.
They say it's huge, yeah.
Yeah, and like at least in China, like even in high-end matchmaking, like where I was playing, it seemed really good and really smooth. Everyone knew what they were doing. I was playing with a bunch of pros, but even the games where there was a bunch of non-pros or non-recognized names, it was just the players were still like good, like just really good games overall, which seems to suggest that they have the player base to kind of support games at top MMR where all 10 people are pretty top MMR-ish. So I think there is definitely a lot of players playing it. If not in NA, I'm sure there's a ton in NA, but even in other regions, I think the game has gotten fairly well received. So
I want to interject just before anybody else answers that, and I think that something that's really, really important to viewership is that once we are able to do drafts in game, that will cut down so much waiting time from a production standpoint, from a tournament organizer's point of view, that broadcasts will look so much smoother. Huge amounts of smoothing out if we can just do the drafts in game once you're able to swap things around from the custom game drafts. But Bakery, your thoughts on the current future and how it's looking in terms of what it could do?
I'm still pretty hopeful. The example I always give is CSGO was a really, really bad way. Like, they had very few events. The events they did have got about 20k viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And this went on for about 2 years until crates were introduced. And then the game just explodes. The game goes from having like 20k viewers, then the tournament gets 100, and everyone's going, because I watched it at the time, everyone goes crazy about 100. The next tournament was doing like winter, it had 250. Everyone's like, this is insane. And then it hit 500, like the next tournament. Like, the growth was absolutely insane. It was within the space of about 6 months, we went from very, very small scene that nobody cared about to an absolutely huge scene. And that was very much, they got the player base, because the player base for CSGO, well, any CS, is going to be huge. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a long-standing...
As long as it's on the betting websites,
franchise.
By the way.
Well,
that's one of the
my
things.
Point.
Right.
That's my point, is as soon as they got the average player of the game, at least, like, they at least knew there was a tournament on, the game exploded. And I feel like if we can have the same kind of transition where we get an in-game, like, promotion, like, the actual casual players of the game care about the competitive scene, that I feel like this can still be a very big and successful esport.
I think the single best thing is getting the esports tab in game, right? I think that alone would bridge the gap for everything else. And it was we brought it up at the things like the summit or whatever. That is the single greatest change that could occur for this game. Sorry, go on, Bakery. You were saying.
So yeah, that's like my take. Like, as soon as we get the casual viewer interested, and there's a lot of casual players, by the way. There are a ton of casual players of this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the large majority do not know or do not care about the competitive scene.
Dread, your thoughts?
I agree with pretty much what everybody else had to say. I, without a doubt, have faith that there will be enough major changes to be able to make Heroes a very, very big game. Mm-hmm. I'm the only thing, if I'm worried about anything when it comes to Blizzard side, is how fast they make those changes. That's the only fear I think I have at all. But I think that they have gotten over kind of a naive mentality that I felt like that they had for a long period of time and are slowly making the adjustments needed to make this game thrive. And I think we're just now kind of like, if it was like a bell curve, just a graph where it's going to grow exponentially, we're at that point where it's just about to like break and just start skyrocketing upwards. So I guess I feel like all those changes could happen. So and are going to, I feel like, so.
Yeah.
I have one more point, actually. So I've been watching Overwatch, right? And the Take TV tournament started out with about 2k viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of the first day, it hit about like 4.5 as its peak.
Yeah.
And it was a really like terrible day. But the production was quite slow. There were quite big breaks. And the colors of the stream and the actual quality were not 1080p, and the colors were not quite right. The second day, they fixed those issues. The day starts same kind of way, starts about 2k viewers. The last I checked, it was up to 22k. So
it did better today.
Like, yeah, way better today.
Yeah.
And we saw the same thing actually. Me and Kaelaris were on TeamSpeak, and we were watching Rocket League, and we had a great time watching it.
We did.
And it starts out very, very small, like it normally does, about 5k viewers, and then production, very, very smooth. The desks was good. There were like very small delays.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kept growing. And I think with the final game, it was 25k, right, Kaelaris?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, here we see this where it starts off about 10k, and then like something happens. There's a like huge delay. Like the finals were scheduled for this time, so I guess we just need some downtime now. Like the players swap off stage, or we've got a backstage game that's holding everything up. and the viewers just go down, and then we never get that consistent exponential growth across the stream.
And that happens on like day one, and then people don't coming back for day two because they're like, well, day one a lot of problems, and that's kind of a trend that you see a lot of. I think, to be fair, we're being quite harsh on some of the numbers for Heroes. I think it's not doing terribly.
It's not terrible. No. It's pretty okay. Like, this is definitely sustainable. Like, this is by no means a disaster. It could be amazing.
Yeah, people are expecting more always. Like, I think, with how the game is situated, with what it is. I mean, for me, for example, when I transitioned primarily from StarCraft 2 to Heroes of the Storm, I'm like, oh, cool, I can play as Illidan, and I can fight Arthas, and I can be in that cutscene from Warcraft 3. That's awesome. Like, but, you know, and that's the kind of thing that I always thought was awesome about it. Like, and there is so many casual players that the viewer numbers are technically there, just not tapped into yet. So it's an interesting thought. There's a lot of things, again, you know, the changes that, you know, need to come along or whatever. But let's move on from that one, because we could talk about that probably forever. More light-hearted question. More light-hearted question. Callison asks, what character from Overwatch would you like to see in Heroes of the Storm, and do you think there will be an Overwatch map? That's kind of a... Anyway, go on. Let's see.
I think eventually there'll be an Overwatch map. I think eventually there's going to be everything.
Like a payload map? That'd be ridiculous.
I think so. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe a counterpoint.
No, maybe.
It's weird.
But anyway, characters.
Bastion.
You are Cancer. Get out.
No.
I want drop him from the call. All right, where's the button?
All right. Set Nexus looking for a new host on every week.
Fan, congratulations, you've won.
Preferably NA.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Bastion.
I don't actually know who would be appealing. So Widowmaker can't exist because Nova exists and they have the same skin, so she's already off the list.
Yeah, bye.
Bastion would be lame. Torbjorn would be very lame. Maybe Genji. Maybe he'd be kind of cool.
God, can you imagine the mobility? Oh.
I just want to reflect Pyroblast. I don't know if that's a thing, but I want to be able to do that, you know?
You're a mean person. I like the idea of Winston being in the game. I don't know about anybody else.
Oh my goodness, you make me so sad.
Why? What?
If they involve any more Overwatch heroes that just don't have to like do things to get free damage out, I will be sad. Like his auto aim lightning, just like I'm around somebody, everybody's taking damage. Like Tracer alone just stands there and she's like, here's damage, here's damage, here's damage. Like it's so mindless. Sure. They should not implement that. Just because it's a shooter doesn't mean everybody has to be like a shooter in Heroes.
Doesn't have to.
I think Reinhardt.
Yeah.
I think I'm super excited for Reinhardt.
that would actually be pretty sweet. Yeah, I agree with you.
So some things like Roadhog. Like Roadhog's one of my more liked characters from Overwatch. He would be a terrible addition. He's literally Stitches.
Yeah.
Like he has a hook. He has a heal.
He's fat.
He's like melee range. He's fat. I mean, like. So there's pretty much no point in adding those kind. But Reinhardt, with his shield, with his charge, with his E, and obviously his auto attack can just be melee. So we don't need to lock on and mindless damage everyone. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Reinhardt, actually.
I think that would be a really appealing one.
Yeah.
It would like give the saving factor, but then also like the melee and then his knockdown. All of that is actually, I like that a lot.
I think... I would like something like McCree, just because I play him. He's like the only hero I play in Overwatch a lot. I think it'd be cool. I mean, whenever there's a character with like a gun in HOTS, like I just have fun because I'm just like pew pew, I'm shooting you, pew. It's just fun for me. I don't know. Like, and second, like I think you can make him like really high skill cap, like dash in a target direction to reset all your auto attacks, like skill shot nade to stun your enemy. You could probably follow the theme pretty closely. Like if you hit the skill shot nade, you can blow all 5 bullets, dash, blow all 5 bullets, like and really chunk out someone. And you would have like a skill shot nade, you would have like a dash that resets your autos and stuff like that. It would be like kind of a high skill hero that you could make out of that, like high mobility, like skill shots, all that kind of stuff. So I like those kind of heroes where like you can outplay people by by movement and skill shots and stuff. So I just hope something like that happens. Yeah, like I agree with Dread and Bakery. Like I don't really like the concept of Tracer. It's just too free. I think Tracer has a hero like. I don't know, I personally think she's really good. I think if I played like 30 games with her, I could definitely make her work really well in like tournament setting. But
more than 1 hour. Baker, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely more than 1 hour.
Wait, what? No, I was just excited. Like last week where I said I'm like the only pro that thinks this, but if you put enough time into Tracer, I think she's insane.
Oh yeah.
And Fan agrees with me.
I thought you were making an Athlon thing by pointing and saying 30k. I was like,
Of course I wasn't going to say that.
Okay. But no, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I forgot what I was going to say now. Bollocks. Oh, I remember. Fan, what race did you play in StarCraft? Was it Terran?
I was Terran in the first expansion, Terran and Wings, and then Protoss and Swarm.
Okay.
Second expansion, yeah.
So you're a stutter step fan, basically.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
I love stutter stepping.
Oh, good. I like that.
That's probably why I like the guns.
Yeah, you see?
People. It's just fun, yeah.
Got it on lockdown. All right, let's move on to another question. Bakery, did you really just add that? As I'm like looking.
Of course I added that.
You didn't need to add that. All right.
I like the question. I want to get to that one.
Well, we're doing that right now. As I'm about to read it, I see you
Fantastic.
changing it. All right. Jimmy is lost asks, and he hasn't butchered the question when he changed it. What would a pro league system in NA and EU be similar to Gold League ever be viable? And if not, reasons why? So Bakery, since you love the question, go.
So, online leagues are actually, in general, a terrible idea. And there is no way that we could do a full LAN league in EU and NA with the current state of the game. So League of Legends, the biggest current esport, makes a huge loss on making a LAN league. Like even CSGO, it's just not profitable. They just do tournaments because they are better from a money perspective. However, a online league is of course possible. However, it's normally a terrible idea because teams don't care for it. Unless it's the main thing, then teams don't care. Because it's incredibly hard to maintain a roster for this amount of time, and it just eats into your practice time. Like a league always will, unless it's like properly organized and there can be no schedule conflicts. If you can have a weekend like slot for your league, and everybody cares and everybody puts the whole week into practicing for this league, then I think it would be really helpful. And I think we can do that, but it needs to be run by Blizzard as their system. Like, sure, we can have the finals of this league at a place like we have Leicester, like we have Tours, but there cannot be regionals and a league.
All right. Anybody else thoughts on this other than what Bakery's mentioned?
I'm torn on it. Like, I think that a league system would be beneficial. I just don't think that we are there yet. It's just a matter of time. I think we're close. I think 2017 might be a little early, a little bit, maybe halfway through. But as the infrastructure and stability of the regions are getting better and better, it only makes a league more realistic. But with the time, for how it is set up now, it is still slightly out of reach for it to be a positive thing overall.
Yeah, I think there's kind of at least a small difference between like offline and online league too. Like when I think about a league, I just for some reason I think about like an online or an offline kind of league, like like LCS, all the teams go there physically and compete, or like Gold League, they go there physically and compete. So it's like I don't know, a league is really good from a player point of view. It's probably good from a spectator point of view as well. But like everyone says, like I don't think the infrastructure and money is necessarily there yet to justify it. And like I don't know, it's just kind of weird because like even in NA, like where would you put it? You'd have to like put it by Blizzard HQ in Irvine probably, and then like all the teams would have to go there. Unless you want to play like an online league, and online leagues are like I don't think as good. Like we've had online leagues in the past with like ESL majors and stuff, and it's just I don't think it's like as good as a physical league. So yeah.
Yeah, there was a few problems with that where we ended up hosting. I can't remember who cast it over in America. Did it even happen over in America? The major?
Solid
Yeah.
Jake and Kirby.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But in
2 seasons.
in EU, we always had. I think we did 3 seasons in EU, and it was we would have random forfeits. Rosters were always swapping, so
Yeah,
teams would
exactly.
get disqualified. I think Team Liquid actually participated in 2 of them, and because they had so many roster swaps in both leagues, even though they were at the height of their dominance, they still couldn't finish out the seasons and still lost each.
So Navi never made it in, but question mark never made it in.
Right,
Liquid got DDoSed out of 1.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was the first one, right? Or was it second?
I think the second. It was the second.
Right. Okay.
Or the third. Either way, it was just like a disaster because we never actually had the teams cared more about other tournaments like Gersu Cup or indeed the other ESL things, which are also quite profitable. Teams never put in the work and really focused on Major League in particular, and it was a complete failure.
Oh well. Maybe a few years down the line, once viewership has grown and all these steps have been taken that we mentioned before in terms of increasing the significance, I suppose, of the scene. So Jimmy is Lost asks another question, which is, can you give us insight into your training sessions? This is actually aimed at Fan, but so we can go to Fan and then kind of maybe go elsewhere or whatnot. Can you give us insight into your training sessions? What do you guys prioritize working on? What is the number one priority for your teams to get down to advance? I suppose going into this heavily is a bit difficult because you don't want to give away too much, but as a general thing.
Training sessions, basically just, scrim sessions. We obviously scrim every day like every other team. We do generally 4 to 6 hours of scrims, and then everyone plays their own Hero League up to another 4 hours after that. But yeah, in scrim sessions, we generally try and focus on our draft. Definitely try and focus a lot on our draft. I think draft in this game is unbelievably important. So whenever a new patch hits, it's always just a frantic rush to try and figure out what's best, what your proper pick order is, stuff like that. And other than that, we pretty much just generally as a team we play pretty standard. And yeah, I would say we put most of our efforts in figuring out the draft, making sure we can play really solidly, standardly, with a with a comfortable selection of heroes. Basically, we try and play standard, make sure that you can't ban us out on any role, and no matter what you ban, we're still comfortable with whatever we're playing, and it's still standard to us. So yeah,
that's a cool focus. Bakery, do you have any thoughts on that? What do you guys focus on?
I think a lot of it's on the draft, but I think something we've picked up recently is trying to get the whole team synergized on certain kind of playbook plays. So this is something that I think teams are definitely still adapting to do, and I don't think this is commonly what we see in team practice, but cookie cutter compositions or combos, so I'll give you an example of one that's quite cheesy, I guess. Hang on, let me think of it here. So something like Zeratul Jaina. You VP and then you Ring of Frost them. In theory, this is just a guaranteed kill or 2 kills, whatever. It's that kind of thing that I think we're trying to practice more in scrims now. That will kind of add in to what Fan already said. And I feel like this is the path to sort of getting to the next level. That's my current thinking anyway. If you can really nail this, it's something that we picked up from MVP Black, just from watching their play. So what they did is there was a specific play where they had Thrall, Greymane, and Uther. As soon as they see that there's a chance for Sundering, Meriday, who is mounted and running around in the backline, just starts running forward. And he knows the Sunder will come. He ends up about in their front line, and they're about to go on him, and then the Sunder comes. He immediately follows up the Sundering with a stun, and their damage dealer followed up immediately because he knew the Sundering was coming as well. So it's stuff like that we're looking to try and integrate.
Okay. All right then. Moving on, like, what do we have? I wasn't actually going to ask this, but some people are quite curious in chat or whatever. Fan, what are your opinions on Chromie at the moment? Just as terrible as everybody else's, or?
I think she does need like a slight buff somewhere, but I don't think she's that bad. Like when I first played her on PTR, I was literally like, holy shit, like, you know, Li Ming 2.0, like, thanks Blizzard, like, because I love Li Ming. I was like, this hero was great,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think she can work, but you have to have like a very focused comp around defending her. So you'd have to build a comp around her, so she can't really work very easily in like Hero League, but in competitive, I think you can build a comp around her in certain maps. But I think even if you do build a comp around her in certain maps right now, she's just a little too weak. Like her impact is not quite the same as Li Ming or KT. So yeah, I don't know. She's just a little too easy to kill. Like there's too many heroes that can get on her, and if they do, she's just instantly dead.
Okay.
So I think she needs like a slight buff, but not much, because I think she's kind of one of those types of heroes where like if you buff her just a little too much, she can instantly become like broken.
Yeah.
Just from how she plays. But yeah, I do agree right now she's a bit weak.
And Dread Bakery and I have already spoken a little bit last episode on Medivh, but from your perspective, someone who didn't actually attend the Blizzard Summit, what do you think about Medivh? And what you've heard so far, what's your impressions?
I don't know. I mean, like the thing is, Medivh's not a support, right? So
Specialist.
You're not gonna.
Technically a specialist, yeah.
So would you like not pick him in a support slot? You would always pick a support plus Medivh. So, I don't know. It's kind of weird. My initial thought was he was gonna be a support without healing, and he would just be ridiculously overpowered to compensate. But yeah, if he's not a support, it just makes it really weird. I'm not sure where he's gonna fit in because he doesn't do damage. So if you have to run him with a support, it'd be like Tassadar plus support right now, I guess, which could still make him really good because like Tassadar right now, for example, is really freaking good if you pair him up with any support. So I don't know, and I just thought he was originally gonna be in the support role and be overpowered and be like a no healing overpowered support, but yeah, I don't really know where he's gonna fit in the specialist role.
It feels that
I think honestly, like there is a chance he will end up in that solo support though, just because his engage is kind of ridiculous. Like Portal is just ridiculous, and then if anyone gets followed up on, you just give them a W. It's a 5-second cooldown, 1.5 second invulnerable. So I feel like he maybe can end up in that role, but yeah, I think he's looking most likely to be the Tassadar role.
Yeah, I think he'll be a Tassadar.
Yeah. Do you think that, I mean, we already mentioned that Chromie doesn't really fit in most compositions at the moment, and likewise Medivh is probably pushing into this area where he's taking on that second support role, but is potentially kind of fitting molds that don't even exist right now. Do you think that Blizzard's trying to do that with their current hero? Pushes out? Are they trying to like diversify the game in such a way where we see completely new compositions and styles coming out? What do you guys think?
I think so. I think they're trying to push it. I think they're trying to push like the depth of each of the heroes and try and make them all be very good at something, but with drastic downside to something else, rather than a generic cookie cutter. This is pretty good at all these small things, but not great at anything. I think they had an interesting approach on which ones to start releasing first, I guess. I feel like it's easiest to start with the melees and then transfer out to the ranged. And I feel like the supports are actually pretty easy to do as well. Medivh is a very high risk compared to some of the other options they could have gone with. But overall, I think that's their main goal for now.
Other thoughts?
I mean, I think, yeah, I agree. I think they are trying to push the game's limits. Like every every release for quite a while now has had a new concept or role in it. Like Greymane had like shape shifting and resets, and then Li Ming came with like super crazy resets, and then it's like Chromie, long range poke, Medivh's obviously very, very different from anything we've seen. Just every hero release that I've remembered in recent history has been like there's been a new concept in each of them. So yeah, I definitely think they're trying to push the boundaries of the game.
Bakery?
Yeah, I agree. I think there was a quote from Dustin Rowder at BlizzCon, which is basically like, now, finally, we have our base of heroes. We have every hero archetype that we want for the game to be complete. And now, we're just, like, we get to go crazy. We get to add the things that make the game exciting. And all the heroes that they were starting to develop at the time of BlizzCon were going to be things that push the boundaries. And I think the first one that we saw was Li Ming, and her talent tree was amazing, and her skills were interesting at least. And obviously with Chromie and Medivh, we're seeing some more. So I definitely expect to continue in this general direction of these heroes being their own niche, and they're not going to fit any general sort of character.
Okay. All right. Well, I think with that, fellows, I think we are pretty much done. Unless Bakery's looking puzzled and startled. Are you okay there, Bakery? You good?
I had an amazing topic.
Did you?
I was so excited.
Do it.
And I forgot what it was.
Oh, right, okay. The thing
I
that you
still
were
don't know.
Did I throw you off with changing it on the on the doc?
No, I didn't know anyway.
Oh, great.
So, like, I was gonna do it, and then Fan was saying something, so I was like listening to Fan, and I after he'd finished, I went to write it, and I was like, I've forgotten. So I guess we'll just never know what I was thinking.
That's brilliant. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, we're done. We are done, boys and girls. Thank you very much for tuning in to episode 6. We are going to give our lovely people here their outros. So we'll go Dread, Bakery, and Fan. Where can we all find you, and what you're going to be doing in the future?
I have a lot of things happening in the future, but none that I can actually really release information on. So that's pretty neat. Outside of that, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing in terms of casting and everything else. You guys can follow me on Twitter at TempleDread, which I believe is like down there or something. And then Twitch is Dreadnought_Heroes, which everybody's going to sit there and go, Dread's not a streamer, because I haven't streamed in forever. And that's true. But I promise when you realize all the other things I'm working on, you'll realize it's because I legitimately just don't have the time.
Well done. Bakery?
You can find me on Twitter at Bakery Heroes. We're training fairly hard with our new roster for Sweden. We're going to boot camp in Katowice on the 9th, I believe, and we'll be there until the tournament starts. So you can look for us there. I'm really hopeful that we can put in a good performance.
Awesome stuff. And finally, Fan.
Yeah. So well, thanks to Team Naventic and our sponsors. We don't have like very many, if any, sponsors yet, actually. But we're a new team. We're working on that. So if you want to sponsor us, feel free to contact us. Other than that, you can find me at FanHots for Twitter. I stream pretty regularly these days for a few hours each day. You can find my stream at Twitch TV/SC2FanTV, and always check out FanHots on YouTube for awesome educational videos. They're awesome. FanHots on YouTube, guys. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Fan. We do appreciate it. Our first proper American guest, which is always
awesome.
Good. Who better to have? That's what I say. Who better to have? And thank you very much for tuning in, everybody out there. Make sure to follow me. Oh.
Sorry. And shout out to Karen, because Karen is awesome. And sorry, I just had to get that shout out. Super important shout out.
I completely understand. Thank you very much for tuning in, ladies and gents. Make sure to follow me at Kaelaris on Twitter, as well as everywhere else. All of mine is /Kaelaris, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and all the VODs for this show will be on the YouTube. Gonna probably be difficult doing a show next week since people are busy potentially. And then actually let's look at schedules, because I think we're going to be pretty busy in the next coming weeks. What are you saying, Dread? What's up?
No, we're gonna have to figure out the scheduling, but we'll try and make it happen. Like I said, I got that laptop now, so now I can do them on the road if I need to. So.
Oh yeah,
Let's do it.
bee. You're always a busy bee.
Always, but nobody knows it because I just hide, and none of the things I work on are public. So I just look like a guy who does nothing all the time.
And then Baker just said he was going to Think Bootcamp on the 9th, so that excludes him for God knows how long. So we're in a great spot. All right. We'll keep you updated on the Twitter. Make sure to follow at State of the Nexus on Twitter, and we'll make sure to tell you whenever there are going to be episodes coming up. We'll try and do them after all the tournaments that are going on, depending on our schedules, etc. But for now, that is it. We shall see you next time for State of the Nexus goodness. Bye for now.